Moving around from one point to another is practically the daily life of everyone. Movement of people, goods, and materials from one place to another is a daily occurrence. With this movement comes human contact. Transportation in general has changed lives through traveling. With the recent breakout of infectious diseases including COVID-19, the safety of road users comes to question, and the impact of the spread of the disease from one person to another. Welcome to Road Matters. I am Fatima Umar. Stay tuned as we go on the road.
Road transportation is one of the most basic human needs. Without it, there could be chaos and most likely difficulty of movement. People are ready to go the extra mile to get to their destination. With the recent outbreak of infectious disease, how safe are road users while on a road trip? What do we really know about the disease and its transmission?
Coronavirus was first reported to the World Health Organization on the 31st of December in 2019. That was from Wuhan in China. And the cases started increasing over the course of January. As at that time, the World Health Organization had then alerted the world that this is an infection that we've seen coming out of China, and the Chinese government started imposing travel restrictions on that location, so that this would minimize spread to the rest of China and to the rest of the world. Unfortunately, before that travel restriction was in place, over a few days, people had already left that province, the Hubei province where it was first discovered, gone to other parts of China. Some had even gone to other parts of the world. In fact, the very first case in the United States was somebody who had just returned from Wuhan in China. Over the course of that time, you can see that there was a global outcry about this new virus that was causing a pneumonia-like illness. Information was all over the world. Then there were now few travelers in Italy who had got this infection and were coming down with illness as at February. But the cases were less than 100. The Italian government also released travel restrictions, also warned people on unnecessary movements. But because the cases seemed to be few, the population did not think it was that serious. Because even here, when you talk to some people, say it's not that serious. That is what happened to them. And literally overnight, their cases went from a couple of hundred to thousands. And the number of severe and critical cases has overwhelmed the Italian health system. And what is painful is that the Italian health system is one of those health systems that has been adjudged a very high quality health system. They have a high reliance on technology, and still their system could have been overwhelmed by an infection like this. So that tells us that when we look at ourselves here in Nigeria and we look at the challenges that we face in our own health system, we should even be doubly precautious about preventing the spread of this infection. We need to be more vigilant. We need to take action where that action is needed. It was only reported at the end of 2019. So the knowledge and awareness of the virus itself, its life cycle and how it affects humans is still a learning process. So we cannot say things categorically. We're still understanding the virus. So we cannot take things for granted. So it's important that as much as possible, we do what we can, follow the advisories from government. We are in a fight for our lives. If you are confronted with a road transport worker that is not aware of the guideline, make it known to him. Second thing is that it is spread from person to person through what we call droplets. So these are little drops of fluid from spittle or saliva, from secretions from nose discharge, where somebody has maybe a catarrh or cough, and that's why you're seeing a lot of people moving with masks. Now those masks are advised where an individual may have a cough or a catarrh. So when the person wears the mask, if they sneeze or if they cough, it is contained within that mask, and it reduces the likelihood of it going to another person. Now, generally, people who may not have this any symptom of this COVID-19 are advised to limit movement as much as possible, and thereby exposing themselves to possible risk, because we have seen that it's spreading not only in Lagos, but it's spreading in Abuja, it's spreading in some states in the west. It has even reached southern Nigeria now. So everybody has to know that this is something that is real. There has been a myth before that it does not affect Africans, the heat does not condone, but we have seen that it is spreading, and every day the Minister of Health is announcing increased numbers of infection across the country. So we see that that's a lie. It is real, it can spread in Africa, it can spread in Nigeria, and it is spreading. So now what do people do? The Federal Capital Territory Transportation Secretariat just recently released a guideline saying that where people must be in public transport, the buses must be at 50% capacity, so that people can be spaced out and not sitting in clusters as usual. Secondly, that in taxis, there should be the driver, one person in front, and 2 people at the back at the maximum. Then for tricycles, it should just be the driver in front and 2 people behind. Now, this guideline has been released. A lot of commuters are not aware of these guidelines, and it requires government enforcement. In this guideline, they said if you happen to be wanting to embark on a journey, the bus is not adhering to these new guidelines for capacity, you can call the VIO and report the issue. Secondly, if you are in a bus or you're in a taxi and there's an individual who you suspect may have COVID-19, meaning that the person is coughing, the person is sneezing, and maybe you feel like the person may have a high temperature, or you have felt that the person has a high temperature, you can also reach out to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control on their hotline number. Now, this is in an ideal situation. The guidelines have been released. People are aware of these guidelines. It is now for us to know that we are in a fight for our lives. That's the reality of an infection like this that spreads widely and does not require you to do anything extra to get it. Just by being in contact with somebody that is positive for this infection, you can get it. And that's why it's important that at the stage where we are now, we should be looking at how to prevent spread of this infection. In those guidelines from the FCT, they also recommended that drivers should make sure that there are sanitizers in the car, there are wipes and all that. But we know that if this is not enforced, it may not be available for people. Let us be our own ombudsman. Let us be our own regulators. Let's regulate ourselves. Let's make sure that we, on our own, consciously make this decision to make sure that we're no longer touching others, we're not shaking hands, we're not having bodily contact, we're washing our hands frequently or using hand sanitizer. Another thing I observed as I was in the course of my work was seeing people around, even on the road, with gloves. That is a danger. If you are not a health worker that is providing a service, or somebody who is dealing with food items, you should not be wearing gloves and just moving around. People are using these gloves, they are using it to touch multiple things. They'll open this door, they'll move here in those one pair of gloves. In fact, some of them are wearing one glove on one hand and the other hand is bare. So in a time like this where there's a lot of uncertainty, there's also a lot of misinformation. So people are scared, people are anxious, and they really don't know what to do. So it is also for those of us who have access to information to make sure that we're getting information from verified sources and don't start spreading it without being sure of how true that information is. Because for these people who are moving around with one hand, one glove, and the other hand bare, somebody told them that that's a way of preventing the infection, and that is wrong. Those who are able to spread the infection to the communities. What we're trying to do is reduce the speed of infection from person to person and reduce the possibility of active community spread, because once it's spreading actively in the community, it is very, very difficult to restrict that massive spread at that point. So that is where we are now.
With the outbreak of infectious disease, what are drivers and passengers doing to stay safe?
Whenever there is a case like this, we take the ball to the horn. I remember when the issue of HIV and AIDS, we send our staffs to various points of the drivers with the World Bank program. We went to some various places, motor park, to some of the loading point and depots, where we sensitized them, we informed them about the implication. You know, it is very easy. A driver will leave Abuja today, maybe he will sleep tomorrow in Sokoto or in Borno State. We are not unaware about that. So whenever there is that case, we take it very seriously. We are going to have a meeting with our branches to provide a washing materials for the drivers and other commuters, to see that as much as possible that we are not health workers, but at least the little we can. Position that we are going to embark to that. The president was talking about that one.
The state chairman of FCT, State Council of National Union of Workers, and the Treasury, they just passed information to us now that everybody should go and buy pocket at this time and put it in front of their office, even though in the middle of the park, so that everybody will be washing and be satisfied. Every vehicle that is loading now will get it, and everybody of the commuter that is boarding the vehicle from tomorrow, they will need to wash their hands and sanitize their hands, and every driver must comply with the rule and regulation. There is somebody who refuses to comply, to use that sanitizer by the kit. And we track him down, then we make sure that he reverse back and come back to his place. So anybody that is coming here, that's what we believe as at now. Everybody are trying to comply with us. Even though the people in the park, both the food seller and everybody, in the morning we do it. In the evening, we will still do it again. The police are at the both sides, telling people that it's 2-2, so that the plane will not be congested at the pedestrian stand at Ligbe. So I believe everybody are trying their possible best to make sure that this coronavirus issue is lesser in Nigeria.
This is Jabi Motor Park, so we are trying to sanitize them. And anybody who is not cooperating with us, we have the motor sent back to where it's coming from. Anybody is not agreed for us to sanitize his hand, we are not going to agree for him to enter the park. This is what the council tell us to be doing, our own council, from the NLTW, our headquarters. This is what the directive they give to us. So anybody who is not agree with us, we are not going to allow him to enter the park.
Because of disease, this hands glove, it's very important to you. It can prevention and give you protecting from all disease. Because of somebody enter the motor and you don't know why, from where you come. So that is the reason why I buy hand glove, because of this thing. If you can protect yourself, so that is good for you. So I'm travel. I don't know which people you can meet in the car. So that is the reason why I buy glove and something like this.
I only use kai kai sapele water to rub my hand. That is what I do, and I make sure I don't touch my passenger whenever they get into the car. That is what I use to prevent myself. Some of them do have, but anybody that requests, if I have, I give them if they want to come down from the car. This one is more okay than sanitizer, because when you get to the market, even a sanitizer that is like this, you get it for 2,000, 1,005. So this one is better. It's 200 naira.
There's no money. Even the hand glove, I didn't have. As a driver, we need all these things and even the masks, so that we'll just cover ourselves from all the deaths and yama that is around. As you can see, even at the entrance of the park, there is hand sanitizer there that people are using to wash their hands. When you clean up, then you advise them, please, do this, do this. Most of them are wearing their masks as they come into the park now. So the health management came into the park to at least give us more enlightenment regarding this endemic disease.
As you can see, I'm putting on my mask already. I use the sanitizer before I even put this ones. So it's very important. I wash my hand always. Then after I dry it, I put a hand sanitizer. Yeah, I advise them to use masks. Then to also use their hand sanitizer always. Then I have to get small, at least a small one to put in their pocket. Always using it. It's very important.
We have hand sanitizer. We use it to, even we give the customers too. We also use it for ourselves. On the road, yes, we put our hand glove, we put our masks in our mouth, so to prevent not to contact with any disease from anybody, because you don't actually know the passengers you are carrying.
I have my nose mask as is being stipulated on the measures we need to take as individual, and I have my hand sanitizer. I do sanitize my hand every 30 minutes. And for the vehicle, they said they should be conveying three people at the back. Some of the vehicle are still conveying 4 people. And in a case where they are conveying 3 people, you have to pay more.
By law, the cars ought to carry 3 in the back and 1 in the front, with the driver making it 5 passengers. But now, for social distancing, we are telling them, please, this is the new traffic guideline. Please, let's give ears to reasoning. We cannot go and be arresting people all through. By law, they ought to do this. But by the current health situation we find ourselves, let's encourage social distancing. Please carry 2 in the back, 1 in the front. And if you have more than 1 passenger in the car, please wind down the glasses. Do not use air condition in mass transit buses, because if somebody is having the COVID-19 and the person sneezes, it remains within the confine of that bus, maybe 18-seater, maybe 10-seater, maybe 6-seater if it be like a mini bus, and that goes around. But if it is open, the wind can come in and blow it up. And I think in all of this, we are doing this for public good. That's why we are appealing to them. The one we are arresting and have arrested as at today alone, I think from the road safety figure I got about 69, from the VIO figure I got 72. Put them together, we have done mass arrest of those carrying 2 persons in the front seat. Mass arrest of those. But those carrying 3 at the back, we are begging them, please, let's give ear to reasoning. You are right by law, but by the current challenge we have in the country, please, let's join hands together with government to fight COVID-19 out of Nigeria, and we can do that by social distance. We even have a Keke Napep video in India where somebody has a small bucket, you wash before you enter. It's something different here. Look at me for the first time entering NTA. I had stopped to wash my hand in 2 areas. You have sanitizers almost everywhere in NTA. It wasn't so before. Before, when I enter here before, from the gate, I wash my hand. I was to enter for this interview again, I wash my hand. Come on, that's beautiful. Normally, it would delay the time of production, but I had washed my hand all through. If I leave you now, I'm going back, I will rewash and wash myself out of NTA again. That's beautiful. Fellow motorists and commuters, let's stay safe. Let's just abide by traffic rules. Let's do what is appropriate here. These are difficult times. Tougher time call for tougher measures. We must join hands together with government, synergize going forward here. Let's just do what is appropriate here. Let's ensure that we observe social distancing here. Don't overload the vehicles. Be very careful. In all of these, I believe very soon we'll come out of coronavirus as a nation and we'll come out better.
A lot of people have said this infection is not their portion. And I truly believe it is not their portion. But unfortunately, acting in a way that endangers the lives of people whose portion it may be, is the reason why we are giving these guidelines. Stay home. Where you have an essential service that requires you to leave the house, make sure that you are taking the prevention advisories to heart. Make sure that you are maintaining social distance, you are avoiding public gatherings, you're frequently washing your hands with soap and water or using a sanitizer, so that you protect the life of someone whose portion it may be. By exposing yourself, having no symptoms, and then transferring the infection to someone who may come down with severe or critical illness is literally signing somebody's death certificate. And I do not believe that there's any one of us that wants to be the one that sends somebody to an untimely grave. Important things. First of all, before you embark on entering any vehicle, make sure that your hands are washed or sanitized. If possible, have wipes with you to wipe down the door handle before you open the door, because that is another possible source of infection. You enter the car, be aware that what government is saying now is that you should not be more than 2 in the back. There should be 1 passenger in front with the driver. If it's a tricycle, there should only be the driver in front and 2 people behind. And if it's a bus, if the capacity of the bus is 13, there should not be more than 6 to 7 passengers anymore. This is so that there's adequate space between people. Be aware of this and call your driver to task. If he's trying to flout this, make sure that let him know or her know that you are aware of this guideline now and this is what it is supposed to be. People have to be aware. On the part of government, we have to, in addition to these guidelines, ensure that there is a strategy for enforcement of these guidelines in order to protect our people. For those who do not have any essential service that is making them leave their homes, stay at home. In the event you have an important thing that you need to leave your home to do, make sure that you are ever mindful of your safety and protecting yourself from possible infection, because you're also jeopardizing the lives of your loved ones at home, who may be very young or who may be elderly. And where some people say, well, young people may not come down with severe illness. In the UK, some young people are coming down with severe illness. Some young people are dying. So it's not something that we can take for granted. This is a new infection. The advice for face mask is wear it so that you are protecting others. Another advice is avoidance of people touching their face, touching their nose. If you wear a face mask and it protects you from someone who you may be in close contact with, who has sneezed or coughed, if you have touched a contaminated surface and you subsequently scratch your eye, you will still get an infection, whether you were wearing a face mask or not. So that's why I'm trying to tell people that wearing a face mask is not a guarantee of protection. No, you shouldn't wear hand gloves. I do not advise hand gloves if you are not working in an environment where you are taking care of people who may be ill, because what this does is that it reduces the availability for health workers, and when individuals need their services in the hospital, they will not be available. Because just using that hand glove and touching every surface is still exposing you, because you are now collecting all those bacteria and viruses and germs on those hand gloves. And there's also a procedure for applying hand gloves and removing hand gloves in a healthcare setting, which people don't know. And so even in the process of removing, you are exposing your hands to those things that have been collected by the gloves. Frequent hand washing with water and soap or use of sanitizers where the water and soap is not available will do more to protect us. And avoidance of touching of our face, because touching your face increases the risk of contaminating your body from an infected surface. Everybody should have a small size sanitizer with them in the event that they do not have access to water and soap in order to wash their hands thoroughly. You finish a journey, the same thing. Use this sanitizer, because in touching these doors, in touching the handle, you're exposing yourself to what may have been contaminated. Let's stay safe. Let's follow the guidelines.
The curbing of the spread of infectious diseases will take its toll on public transportation and movement. But do not lament about profit or loss. Rather, look out for your health and your role in minimizing the spread. If enforcement is done and we all abide and take precautions, we shall overcome. This is where we end the program this week. You can stay in touch with the program on our social media handle on Twitter at RoadMattersNTA or send a mail to roadmatters@nta.ng. Until the next episode, I am Fatima Umar. Stay safe. Bye-bye.